Welcome to Decipher. Today, we're thrilled to have Patrick from Anthropology, a digital anthropology agency. Patrick's work helps brands and companies navigate the digital landscape by understanding tribes of people online, using insights that merge social and data science to do interesting things, including customer clustering, segmentation, and development. So today, we'll get into the fascinating concept of digital tribes, how human behavior and culture manifest in the digital world, and how AI plays into all of this as well.
Thank you, Chef.
We're happy to have you. Do you want to just start us off a bit about how you got to where you are now? I'd love to hear a bit about your background in anthropology and how you came over to the digital world.
Yes, of course. Well, my background in anthropology is, largely due to my mother, who used to tell me a lot of Mayan stories when I was a child. And later, I developed. I had a passion for Native American societies and South American societies. I think this led me through this path mainly. And in a more generally speaking, I'm interested a lot into the origins of humanity. So this, I think, it's the main reason for why I studied and I go to anthropology, cultural anthropology. I first started studies in Geneva, where I wanted to study. Well, I'm from Geneva, and I wanted to study anthropology there, but they had only the, biological part of anthropology, which, because anthropology is a two-side discipline. One is cultural and social, and the second is rather focused on biology, on the human bones and genetics of populations. So I ended. So I stopped. I quit studying this because it was not really where I wanted to go, and I wanted to rather study in Neuchâtel, at the University of Neuchâtel, where I studied a master in anthropology of techniques or anthropotechnology, which is basically a field, an applied field of the discipline that aims to inform design processes, understand how technology is transferred from one social context to another, or knowledge transfers about techniques and technologies, and so on. So basically, this is my background. And how I maybe transitioned to digital world is a large story, but short story in one. I after my studies, I saw that I was not employable, so I quickly saw that I was not employable. So I created my own job in a sense, which I did after several experiences in several internships, entrepreneurial attempts, and I had also a job as a social worker for the hospital in Neuchâtel. And I did 2 years there, and then I said to me, no, I need to go out. It's not for me. So I was expanding my networks, going to events like the meeting apps of entrepreneurs and events. And I met Alejandro Servin, which is the co-founder of Antropomedia, in 2019 in LinkedIn. And so my journey began at this moment in digital anthropology.
Okay, nice. So once you actually got to digital anthropology, what did you feel most surprised about the difference with the digital space as opposed to traditional anthropology?
Well, in a digital anthropology, we cannot say that it's a different space. At the end, it's the same continuum. What you find in internet, on the virtuals, or how we say cyber cybernetics networks is the same that you find in the real life. After all, they are just in a different manner, different form, but they are the same. The tribes that we find in Instagram, for instance, are the same that you will find in the real life.
Okay, nice. Okay, so you mentioned tribes, but for the listeners who aren't familiar with the concept of neo tribes, postmodern tribes, digital tribes, do you mind just explaining a little bit about that concept?
So what when I speak about tribes, more precisely, I speak about digital tribes, which are the same finally as a neo tribes or postmodern tribes. This is the same concept, and this is characterized by a shared or collective identity that can transcend traditional demographics categories. Collective identity is built around shared interests, values, and experience rather than criteria such age, gender, social classes, or ethnic origins. Um, we can speak about the German approach that's called Sinus Milieu, but it's not the point here. But this approach is more oriented through psychographic and on social classes than these tribes that we are explaining on the internet. And the phenomenon, we can say that the collective identity within this group is often expressed through specific codes like cultural codes, rituals, and consumption practices. And these offer a lot of insights about customers, much more than the traditional ones that are based basically about what are they doing on internet, like clicks, how and when they connect. It's a merely more technological approach of how to know about users in internet, and also about demographic categories that are more traditional categories to segment populations and people for consumption needs, market needs.
Can we let's go with a couple of examples to make this a bit more tangible. Can you explain how like certain tribes, or let's say those crypto communities, how they form and how they operate online?
Well, how they form tribes may be like more ephemeral than communities, for instance, and they form around, as I said, cultural identities, shared practices, interests, and values. We can speak about maybe the crypto communities, the crypto digital tribes, the cryptocurrencies. There in the cryptocurrency world, there is a lot of different tribes. We can say consumer tribes or tribes of digital tribes that are not expecting the same. They're experiencing crypto differently, each specifically, and they some might be like they can have a longer duration than others, because what is the fuel for the tribes, we can say, like the wood for the fire would be the the performance of symbols. As long as a tribe can perform in terms of symbols, express themselves that they are belonging to a certain tribe because they have certain values, codes, practices, the tribe might live as long as they have this feel. Uh, I'm thinking about hipsters in a certain sense, that it's not really a tribe, but it's a social style or a lifestyle, but it's similar. Hipsters, we no longer hear about hipsters, but they they transformed and they have gone in different others forms or groups, but they're still there, but maybe they transform, they gone into, like, I don't know, UCHIs, young urban creatives and so on. I don't know if it's
No, it's a good example. It's an interesting way to categorize people. It's very similar to what we do when we conduct customer archetyping. So when you're deciding which customers and what do they how do they sort of behave online, this makes it easier to target them, I guess. So I guess my question for you is, why, in your words, why should we care about anthropology and mapping out these tribes?
we should care because well, society never is really changing fast, and for many reasons it's too complicated to name it all and to be exhaustive in this sense. But we had what's called the liquid society, which information is really unstructuring boundaries in society, and we have a lot of information, and and science and technical progress also made the change being really faster. And I think the marketing and a lot of companies are not able to follow trends, tendencies, and socialities in internet. Like, I mean sociality, I mean how people gather, how people like experiment things I mean in the past, maybe in the 80s, it was much more simpler because there was not internet at this time, at the beginning of the 80s. And when internet came, so it made a big change. It was a game changer about how fast practice, trends, aesthetics changed the way of a lot of people living. I can just tell you an example. I, for my fieldwork in master of anthropology, I studied Colombian salsa, which is salsa caleña in Spanish. Is a practice that were really massively unknown until like 2013 or 15 in Europe, in US. Why? Because mostly because Cubans and Puerto Rican were way more easy. It was way more easy for them to travel and export their own salsa styles, practice of salsa, and it became hegemonic. Like, when you speak about salsa, you think about Cuban salsa or one-on-one salsa, Puerto Rican salsa. But Colombian, for the narco traffic, were stuck in Colombia, and they could not like travel easily, and the practice was stuck in Cali, where it comes from. And since the beginning of internet, it starts to blow. So now, with the internationalization of like, I don't know, events about salsa championships of salsa, the Colombians were also there, and it blowed. Like, oh, people on internet sharing videos about this specific style of salsa, which look really different than one salsa, Puerto Rican salsa and Cuban salsa. Then people wanted to learn about that, and we can say that since the 2010, 10 years ago, a lot of people from Europe and US came to Colombia to learn this style of salsa. So you can see that some technologies may like blow up the and make the change a lot faster, lot faster than ever before, actually.
It also sounds like you can use these methods to basically track trends, which is a massive thing, right?
Exactly. Well, I'm thinking, for instance, about we conducted a research about wine consumption in Switzerland, where basically we were answering who is the wine consumer, who are the wine consumer in Switzerland in 2023. So we made a like 2 months and a half research about 10 social accounts, Instagram, Facebook, and we try to be the more representative of public places. That what we call public places is really a social account, like I don't know, a Greenpeace account in Instagram is a digital public place where people gather basically as they would gather in a marketplace in London. So we try to be the more representative about German-speaking Switzerland and French-speaking Switzerland, and the result were like 25 tribes, different tribes. And when we structured the data, we could saw basically trends that it were most of the segments were oriented to postmodernity rather than modernity, which is clear. But it was the tendency, the trends to more sustainability, um, um, being consuming wines that are like more about discourse and messages than traditional wines. So it resonates a lot of what you can observe today in our societies.
Okay, how would that translate to, let's say, a business decision? So, for example, you've segmented these wine drinkers. What advice would you give to a company which was selling wine based on this custom discovery that you've done? Because a really good analogy actually is Clayton Christensen. So he illustrates this difference uh, between knowing customers and really understanding them as well. For instance, like he helped McDonald's sell more milkshakes by understanding who their competitors really were, because it wasn't actually just other milkshakes. It was like bananas, bagels, donuts, even coffee, because he understood that milkshakes were really being bought for long, boring commutes, not just to drink, inside the stores. So once you had that deep understanding of the customers, McDonald's knew to make their milkshakes a bit thicker and to use like a thinner straw to basically get those milkshakes to last longer on the commutes, and that got their sales to basically rocket back up. So, his theories highlight the importance of really understanding customers, right, and their motivations behind buying a certain product and what the products really are hired to do. So that is where I really see the value of like this anthropological approach. So, do you have any more examples like that? Maybe even with the wine story.
Yeah, for instance, in the wine sector in Switzerland, the idea was to penetrate the Swiss German market, and they never could do that before because they didn't. They have no clue of who are the Swiss German drinkers, wine drinkers. So they had some research, but it was only like based on or quantitative, only statistics or numbers about the industry, or it was only qualitative uh, research that were like really small and not really representative, and about like the people that they already know, like the traditional wine drinker of they are just like picking like randomly people and just having a sampling like that. And the problem that is that these insights are largely um, like they are not enough. They are too old and too. I mean, they are not enough to know what are actually who are those wine drinkers actually nowadays. And what we saw is that in Swiss German part is there are a big segment of what we could say like picky forefronters drinkers. Like there are people that are basically more younger than other segments, and they are really picky in the sense that they, in their practices, in their what can characterize them is that they value the production of wine that is like biodynamics or organic wine that respects sustainability. And not only that, they appreciate a lot the what you can say, what you can see of the bottle, like the image that's on the, how you say that, the small,
The logo, or
yeah, the logo, but the whole branding of the bottle. So they appreciate to have this as that is really telling for them, like they're visually attractive. I can think about a bottle that we're speaking about. It was the Snoop Dogg wine bottle, so it may be a bit strange, but it's in a kind of sense appealing for them because it's a different experience. And last point is that they consume also more the discourse about the origins of the production, the wine production. It's more important for them, like what's the narrative of the bottle, the production, than the product itself, in a sense. And we can say that they are visually and they consume visuals and the discourse about the bottle. And it shows that this is a segment they never knew before. So it allows them. You spoke about McDonald's and Coca-Cola milkshake and stories behind this. It's the same. When you know these things, when you know the ecosystem and who the consumer are, and you have enough, customer knowledge, you can be creative on your strategies. And the goal, I would say, is when you have an excellent, really good customer knowledge, you can create definitively the best experience for them. And for me, when you have a great customer experience knowledge and you can create an incredible experience, you have all. Yeah, you are really competitive. And this is what they done. So they tried to teach winemakers to create new kind of products that could address these kind of publics.
oh, this is exactly what I was talking about. It's, by knowing your customer segment really deeply, they knew not to focus on making the wine better, but if they know that their customers care more about the branding, then they know to put a lot more effort into that side of things. So that's exactly what I was talking about. In terms of tools to actually help you do this, uh, off camera, we've been talking about like sociogram networks. Do you mind showing some of those and how they help illustrate relations with people? And I remember you showing how you were able to cluster people based on their behavior. And also, if you can go through like how you would read something like this, and also what sort of insights you can even gain from it.
So basically, what we're seeing is what's the so-called sociogram. And basically, sociogram means a graphic or a graphical representation of social networks. And when I mean social networks, is not Instagram or Facebook. Social networks, in the strict term, is just how people relate and the relation between people. And this is a social network about vaporwave, which is a like artistic and musical trend that's based about um, retro like people, like retro communities, the people that are really into retro from the 90s, the 80s, and the mall culture, mall like you were finding in the 80s or the 90s. And for instance, you see the sociogram like before, and each cluster is like a group of people that behave the same, like they have the same relation to contents. So the tool is just showing them basically. But what was the real value in that is that, as anthropological analysis reveals, is why they are doing that, why those people like that. And this is a tribe. For instance, we have here a tribe that, for instance, Dreamcraft Collective in the vaporwave, that is at 35% of the whole account. And here you can see what they are sharing about themselves. So this is the user, like the contents about the user, what they are sharing actually in their feeds, and what they are saying.
Okay, so each of those nodes in the sociogram is a person, I'm assuming?
Yeah, exactly. It's a person, but you can see really well, because it's a really distant view. But basically, you have nodes and relations, and these nodes like that are just people, and that are just relations.
Okay, nice. And the distance between these nodes tells you how different these clusters are. So, for example, your 35% Dreamcraft collective and your 11% Cyberpixel otakus are probably similar, more similar in their tastes and behavior, I'm assuming.
Yeah, exactly. The graph informs a lot about how people are concerned about the topics. Here in this case, we can see that there is a difference between here, basically, and here, because you can see that this cluster is really are going outside. And this tells also, but we can say that those are nearer than these ones that are more about retro gaming, and those are more into aesthetics. Uh,
So correct me if I'm wrong. You've segmented people interested in this art form into people with more like the dreamlike aesthetic. Then you've got, I don't know, more like a cyberpunk, and then more like a psychedelic, and that's also what you've done here,
yeah,
right?
exactly. For instance, there is a second tribe here that is the blue one here. That's here basically. That is like 15%, and this one is more about this kind of content. So you see that what are these people posting is completely different than these ones.
Let's say I was a business, and I'll be able to target one group um, with a deeper understanding, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly. For them, there are different things that matter for them. I mean, the vapor wave is one thing, but how people appropriate themselves vapor wave is another. Like, people seek different things in vapor waves, simply as that.
Okay, so for example, how would these groups behave differently? Let's say your Dreamcraft versus your Cyberpixel guys. How would they behave differently, for example?
Those ones are more into. I mean, those ones are more into artistics creation. Here is a rap hip hop music creator, and you see that his clip is really into this kind of stuff, designing like synthetic realities. Is That's why we call them Dreamcraft Collective, and they're more into nature things like clouds, mostly clouds, and how the sunset can inspire them into creating realities or music or content or digital experiences. Um, there was an exposition in Tokyo that was about this kind of stuff, how they can create some experiences about like synthetic realities. And these people are more into like serenity, melancholy, and in a sense they are more nostalgic about things that, I mean, they are more into Japanese things and influence about retro communities. And those ones are more into they are more like cyber, I mean, in a sense that they are more into uh, these what is psychedelics. So it's like more about what drugs can you do some effects on you, and they are interested in how this can like be represented uh, in art. And they are into the glitch core, glitch core, dream core, all these kind of aesthetics that those communities consume in internet. And there is like a bible on internet about this kind of movement on or aesthetics, and it's really interesting. And basically what you can see that those people are more into like retrofuturism or punk movements. And and what you can say is that just what you can why these people why these people are liking vaporwave informs that, I don't know, you will not do the same or communicate the same with them than with the Dreamcraft collective. Like they are not seeking the same things in vaporwave. So there are reasons for why these people are seeking vaporwave, but you need to understand why. Simply, I don't know if it's maybe it's a bit abstract because here we are in like a aesthetic or artistic movement, but
The way that you talk to one of these groups is going to be completely different to the way that you talk to a different group. So that is literally the essence of customer archetyping.
the goal is not to be only descriptive, like they are like this, they like that, what this is their values, this is what is the core of their identity. This is not this is only what we call in anthropology descriptive description. But when you have to analyze this, understanding why these people are liking that. And this is the biggest part of the anthropology in this process. You need to understand in broader context, sociological context, why those people are acting like that. And when you find it out, and you are able to structure this in all the ecosystem, you understand a lot of things, and all is very simpler than before.
It's like shining a light on all these people because you would never be able to tell half of this stuff by being an outsider as well. So super interesting. I remember we also talked about some other research that you're doing on political abstention. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, political abstention. Yeah, we did a research about that. So basically, we can say that Antropomedia is it starts from the consumption, the phenomena of consumption. And as I said before in the last time that we were speaking, the thing is that people understood like economy and companies like if they were apart from society, and it's not the case. It's completely artificial. In reality, all is linked, and there is no separation between what you can see in the society. Is all a continuum. A continuum. It's all there are not silos. And if we understand what who are the people nowadays as tribes, we can segment and understand people as tribes, which is really more accurate for understanding society nowadays. Not only consumption, but the whole society. I mean, a lot of phenomena in the society is easier than to say that, well, if I need to understand political concerns about these people, it's easier to know who they are and who they behave, how they socialize in a way, and what are important for those people. And we were able to say that bit, not only in demographics, but because we go far beyond demographics, that there were like groups that are more into other forms of political activism. They are active politically, but not in the traditional manner to voting, but they are like maybe doing like political activism through art or some of other expressions, and they go to events, manifestations, or other forms of gathering. But it's the you cannot say that those people are not political activists. Like, they are active, but not in the traditional way. You just need to understand that this is why maybe you have on statistics and numbers so few people that are actually voting. Like, I can tell you the example of Switzerland in Neuchâtel, where I live. A few months ago, they registered one of the lowest rates of votations, and this in the history tends to go up and down. Like, it's not at a general tendency to go down, but I think no, maybe it's the time to change some things in something in the political, in the way of doing politics. I can tell you the for instance an example of that. In Neuchâtel, they were doing a project that was called End Booster Project, and the goal was basically to ask citizen companies or associations to share the idea on how we can improve the life and like the ideas to improve collective live in the city, collective well-being, we can say. And they ask people like you, like me, or companies to share their ideas. And this, for me, it's a new form that is way more smarter than just voting for people that will represent you in political contexts. You see that there is a lecture of the tribes. What we saw in the tribes, that is a general like anthropological canvas that is passive, active, or observer or participant and non-participant. Like, you have some axes, like some, and you can see that people are more or less active in political, and this is exactly what you can say, that if people are just passive in political domain, is because they are not. This is not what they are expecting, and this is not what correspond to them anymore, we can say. And this kind of project, as I just told you before, is maybe the way to engage them in political life in another form, but correspond much more to who they are, because maybe they want to see the income and the outcome of their political actions. They need to see the start, be implied, and not only observer of political, but they want to participate actively in political concerns or matters.
It's quite interesting. So it's like use use your sociograms or your anthropological methods to map these people, see how they behave, see how they interact with politics, and use that and the way that they would like to behave to allow them to be more politically active instead of enforcing the traditional methods, making it more available to them. So allowing them to be, have their say. So,
and if you go to the social network sciences that were like network sciences that we are using with Antropomedia, it's also, for instance, you identify several tribes, and as we have the networks, we can see exactly who are the person that are involved in that tribe. And for the interviews, it's not randomly, not anymore. Like you know exactly who are the people that are in the tribe, so you can see way more rigorously or sharply what are the differences between population.
you can also validate if any of these changes actually manifest in any of these people, because you can actually just target those exact people and ask them. It's Yeah, it's a very powerful methodology which I see so many applications for. But of course, since I'm a founder and a lot of people listening to this podcast are startup founders and entrepreneurs as well, that's why before I was leaning more to the business examples. But this is also an amazing uh, use of this technology. Do you know of any other instances where you've practically implemented any of these insights in a business context? Maybe uh, to help guide strategic decisions in businesses.
Yeah, for instance, in Switzerland, we have not so many cases than in Mexico, because Antropomedia is from Mexico from 2011. But in Mexico, they worked a lot with hotel industry, tourism industry, and one of the example is that they work for the group Posadas, and it's like some medium economy class hotels, and they did the research and seeing who are the people that are liking that are like following those brands of hotels. And when they discovered the tribes and identified the tribes, they saw, for instance, in one of those hotels that there were a lot of gamers, and precisely esport gamers, like esport athletes, as we can say, and they didn't know this insight, so they adapt to that, and they created a new experience for them, like knowing that a lot of these people were attending those hotels. They changed in the rooms, like they implemented a screen and the possibility to train between their their when they were at the hotel. So they allowed them to have a high speed connection, screen, and commodities for the esports gamers or esports um, people to be able to have a better experience in the hotel.
I guess the next question that immediately comes to mind for me is the fact that we do live in a world where information is our most valuable commodity, right? But what we're seeing right now in the world is a lot of AI generated content is flooding our feeds on like Amazon, Twitter, TikTok, and accessing a lot of the valuable information is getting very difficult. And that leads on to, if this AI content is getting uh, predominantly representing certain parts of the world. So, for example, if the AI has a latent bias favoring Western cultural values, this can potentially propagate these values more so than others. So, do you think that we're seeing an erosion of cultural diversity online and an erosion of diversity of thought? Is that something that you're seeing as well?
There is this. It makes me think about like ethnomusicologists, like the anthropologists that are specialized in musicology of societies. And it was long ago. I think I'm taking this example of ethnomusicologists that were defending the Egyptian music, traditional music, to not be changed by festivals and singers that were popular at that time, and they were like concerned about how mainstream music could change and transform or yeah, transform the traditional Egyptian music. And I mean, cultural change and change in general is a constant state of humanity since the beginning. So the things that it's the same when I studied the caleña, the salsa caleña in Colombia. That competitions at international levels transform the practice itself. It does. It changed the practice. Like for instance, when they start to dance, it was in the salsa caleña. It was the men that were opening with the right foot and and participating to international competitions, and the influence of Puerto Rican salsa made them change from the right to the left foot and put the woman more in value than before. But it doesn't change the essence. It doesn't change the essence of who they are, and the salsa caleña, which is really different from other styles.
My argument here would be, so take people's authentic expression of their behavior online, right? Now, if that's also being filtered through, let's say, an LLM or ChatGPT, which has a latent Western bias, then even if someone, let's say, has an Eastern or Confucian bias, if they're using ChatGPT to put media online, then that would shift how they appear online, right? And that would also shift how you perceive these people online. That is sort of my question. Do you think that the use of this AI will impact how we can understand these people online as tribes?
You mean AI will impact how we understand like different culture using AI?
Yeah. So, say for example, on Twitter, someone wants to make a post, but instead they use ChatGPT to put this post on Twitter. Now, ChatGPT will have its own biases, which are getting mixed in with the biases of the person making the post. Now, if everyone is doing this, then we're going to see a shift, an apparent shift in people's biases online, when really it's just because we're using a new tool to basically put a lot of this content out there. And then my follow up question is, if there is this shift in bias due to the AI generated content, can we still draw the same anthropological conclusions from social media data? Or is that going to be now polluted with AI data?
Yeah, well, the thing is that are you aware of how people are recognizing now image done by AI? And this is the same for us. Like we can see easily what is the content that is generated from AI generated content. But it doesn't change finally if it's just a form. Maybe it's just a form. Even if it's a person that is doing AI content to express themselves in a similar form, the important things is to know about them is what they are, the narrative of themselves. As long as they are speaking about identity narratives, it's interesting for us. So this is why even if Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok would be closed, as long as we have social media where we can study identity performance, it's okay for us. I don't know if it's answering the question, but I think you wanted to know more about the quality of data, maybe.
Yeah. More about the quality of the data they're using to derive these conclusions.
We can say that I'm not a data scientist, but data scientists, your data scientists, are concerned about data quality, and we can say that our data are not really at the start. They are not from, like, I mean, if a data scientist will see the raw data that we have, it will not be useful. I mean, it's really poor. What enrich the data is all the cultural and anthropological analysis that we are structuring them and building around this data. I mean, maybe it's the same for your question.
Okay, so you're saying it's more on the interpretation of the data then through, let's say, experts, anthropologists.
Yeah, I mean, it's the both things. Like it's the interpretation of the data, and also about your ability to structure the data in a cultural analysis.
Okay. Oh, fair enough, Patrick. I was also thinking, like, it's not just images that we're generating with AI, right? So it's also people using, let's say, ChatGPT to brainstorm ideas before they post them online, right?
Yeah,
Is I can see a world where we're imparting some of the bias from, let's say, OpenAI, who's aligned their models to be a particular way. Someone talks to ChatGPT to brainstorm certain ideas before they express their ideas online, and we see a shift in the way that people manifest online because of that brainstorming process. So even if the actual content isn't AI generated, the reasoning processes behind it may be AI enabled, which in a sense would also have their own biases. What do you think about that angle?
yeah. In a general way, I think I refer to Bernard Stiegler, the French philosophist, about French philosophy technique philosopher, I would say, philosophy of techniques, and he studied a lot of how the digital technologies transform society, and and how we should not adapt to but appropriate to these technologies. Because the same question for this the long time in and with all technologies and with all techniques is the important is not to you have not to adapt to those technologies, because when you adapt, you're a slave. You're a slave, basically. And when you are appropriating those technologies, it's not the same process. When you are appropriating those technologies, basically you are transforming them and reshaping them with your own like individual lens or cultural lens. So it's not the same. And yeah, we can say that as long as this is really the problem, when you are just consuming technologies and not being reflexive about technologies, you have you are going to have troubles, generally speaking. And this is why it's so important to when you it's about technology, no matter if it's digital technology, AI, or it's not the point. It's how you behave with these technologies. Are you adapting, or are you appropriating those technologies?
It's about consciously using this tech and also being aware of what we consume.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a big issue now with deepfakes you see online. There's been a bunch of scandals. Really, you remember Taylor Swift, for example, is one
yeah,
that comes to mind. But yeah, I agree with you on that one. So what I've done recently is I've just plotted out the cultural bias of various open source LLMs on what's called the Inglehart-Wenzel cultural map. So that's using established methods from over 20 years and surveys where we have historically been plotting out cultural views. And I thought, why not ask these questions to an LLM and plot them on the same map? So what I've done is actually plot Chinese LLMs and Western LLMs onto this map. And what I found is even the Chinese LLMs, they come out with a much more Western cultural bias. So what do you think about that, Patrick?
yeah. So it was basically it was just the point of my specialization in anthropology, which is anthropotechnology, and the goal is to see when you put a technology in from a certain context to another context. I don't know. For instance, um, basic technology. It can be basics technologies um, the way they are cultivating salt in a French pot and implementing this to African Guinea. And this is the same questions here. This is about the this is two things different. If I take, for instance, the social networks like Instagram, the conception is not neutral and not cultural neutral. Like there are two things that are not neutral, because, for instance, we say that this is not technology. This is not the technology the problem, because social network is a good invention by itself. But this is the conception where the people like conceiving these social networks like Facebook, Instagram, with the full of all those biases that they are using to the dark patterns that they are using to to stick the user on their networks and like use those brain biases to unethically uh, creating addiction to those social networks is not being like it's not like I don't know if you see the difference. Like when you are well intentioned to create a non-addictive social networks that are not a threat for your health or mental health and public well-being, and this is not the case. But this is not only the only aspect. The second aspect is cultural neutral, being culturally neutral, and this is not never the case. All technologies are culturally specific. You can speak about LLMs and AI. It's a cultural production from the Western societies, and it's not culturally neutral. It will never be.
No, it's not, because the companies who release these models, they align them in a particular way. So they go through an entire alignment process. So they respond in a way which the people releasing these models would like them to respond. So they are actually aligned.
The conceptors, like we can speak about open AI, they are the conceptors, the founders have a particular worldview and cultural compass that they transmitted to the whole project. And this is not the same if the like for another technical or technology, if it were invented in China, for instance. I mean, for instance, you see TikTok that is from China. It's not the same as Instagram, but like there is also these things to deal with, the globalization and the massification of cultural, uh, like Western cultural hegemony, that are dealing the process also.
I guess these are all open-ended questions, which I don't really have the answers to either, to be honest.
It's all about like technological appropriation. It's all about that.
Yeah, being able to use these conscientiously.
Conscientiously and being aware of cultural biases and giving our like if you are from another culture than Western cultures, giving your own essence to these technologies in response, and you have different outcomes also.
Yes. It's super interesting. I can talk about this all day, but even people who speak different languages, they experience the world differently. Like that is an entire hypothesis. So, for example, in Russian, there are separate words for light and dark blue, and because of that, people who speak Russian are better able to discern the differences between those two shades of colors. Like it literally does. The language you speak does literally affect your worldview, and it's a shame that we don't reflect all of these worldviews in the AI technology that we're releasing.
And there is a specific domains of anthropology that study that This is ethno-linguistics, how languages shapes your worldview as a culture. And what I'm glad that like engineers or tech profiles are being aware like you. So it's really interesting for like future collaborations to have like mixed profiles, like combined profiles, like with techies, data scientists, engineers, and working with anthropologists or social scientists to be much more aware of all those cultural and society biases.
That was the entire idea behind this podcast, to be honest. So we would bring the AI horizontal, and we'll talk to as many verticals as possible. So yeah, finally, Patrick, could you just tell us a bit more about the services and the products that Anthropomedia provides? So I saw consumer tribes involves investigation and research into various customer archetypes and behaviors. How else can listeners benefit from what you guys do?
Yeah, okay. So we have developed recently workshops that are based on our platform that is Antropomedia Express. Antropomedia Express is the synthesis of 13 years basically of consumer knowledge, statistics, and study case in the industry, and we are just giving these three types of data to the participant to get their eureka moment, basically, which is an innovation process in one or like in one session of 4.5 hours. And the goal is to resolve a business challenge, something that is bothering your business and you don't know how to deal with. It may be new market acquisition. I don't know if you are a watch brand and you want to go to Mexican markets and you don't know who are the consumers of Mexico. You need to know those people, who they are, Mexican cultural codes, and you need to find maybe some other industries, other sectors that addresses already to those tribes, and they solve their problem and they give them good experience for them that they can relate. And you have to adapt and maybe take this example and create something new with your own industry. This is how you can innovating in a way. So this is the more budget friendly offering that we have, because the investigation is a long process. Research for specific question maybe is more for big companies. Like in Mexico, they had Warner Media Latam, Latin America Warner Media, and for this kind of structures, maybe for this kind of companies, it's more realistic. But for SME companies, it's not at all something that we can sell. So we developed these workshops that are really fit for them, because for like 500 dollars, you can have this workshop and being able to resolve your challenge, your business challenge that is annoying you, and get to know to use the platform and having an access to the platform during a certain time, and having a reduction for the license, like for the subscription of the platform. Basically, that's all we have to offer for the companies.
Sounds super useful regardless. I'll be sure to put links to all of this in the description below.
Thank you.
And also, I'll put your LinkedIn in the description as well, Patrick. In case anyone wants to talk to Patrick directly, feel free to reach out. But yeah, thanks for joining us today, Patrick.
Thank you, Shav. Thank you to you, and hope to meet again and speak more about potential collaboration, because your activity is really interesting to me also. I'm sure that we can make something one day.